All right, today we're going to be writing equations of lines in point-slope form. So this meaning it gives us a point on the line and the slope, and we have a formula. So our essential question right now is, given the graph of a linear function, how can you write the equation of a line? So you're going to have to identify the slope and then identify any point on that line. So an x and a y. Okay, so our point-slope formula is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, x and y being our ordered pair, and then we have our slope. All right, so here's the disclaimer. So the x and y values, remember, they're going to change their sign. And hopefully that makes sense once we go through these equations. All right, write an equation of a line of a graph that goes in point-slope form. So we're writing it in y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. All right, so one, we need to identify the slope. So we have a point here, point here. So when you're wanting to identify the slope, you need two different points on the line. And then you're counting your rise over run. So we're going to rise 1. And I run 2. Okay, you then need to determine it's a negative slope, so negative goes in front. Well, then I just need to use any point on that line. So I'm going to use 1, 2. So I'm going to use this point right here. And that's not even right. 2, 1. My apologies. Okay, we're going to use 2, 1, 1. And now we just plug everything in we know. So we have m right here. And we have our x1 and our y1 here. So we have y minus our y1, which is 1, equals our slope, negative 1/2, times x minus our x1, which is 2. So earlier I said something about how your x1 and your y1 will change their sign. So when you're looking at the point itself, it's a positive 2, 1. But when you're looking at it in the equation, notice how it looks like a negative. Okay, so that's what I mean, that it's going to change its sign. It doesn't necessarily change its sign, but it just looks like it changes its sign in the equation. And this is our answer. Okay, I want you to try these two. So again, identify the slope, use one point on the line, and create an equation in point-slope formula. All right? So how can you write an equation on a line if you don't have a graph, but you do have a point and a slope? Well, that is just as simple as just plugging in what you know. Okay? So we have our slope, which is our m, our point, which is x1 and y1, and then we're putting it in the equation. So y minus my y1, which is a negative 2. So when this happens, right here, that's why it turns into a positive. Okay? So when we minus a negative, so we have minus a negative 2, it just creates a big old positive sign right there. Okay? I hope that's not as confusing, but you don't want it to be minus a negative. It just, that's a lot going on, and so you want to make sure that you just put a positive, because that's the same thing. When you subtract a negative, it's the same thing as just adding. Our slope is negative 3, and then x minus our x1, which is 6. So again, notice how our x and y values change their sign, quote unquote. Okay, so our x1, our positive 6, now looks like a negative 6 here. Our negative 2 here now looks like a positive 2 there. Okay, so just double checking before you do anything further when you're going through this, making sure that your points actually change their sign inside of the equation. All right, y'all do number 3 and 4 and check it with the online notes. All right, last question. How can you write the equation of a horizontal and vertical line? Horizontal lines have a slope of 0. Their equations can be written as y equals b, where b is the y-intercept. So like this first one, It's a horizontal line, but we also know that because it only intercepts the y-axis. Okay, so when it intercepts the y-axis, you know it's going to be y equals, okay? So y equals, well, wherever it hits on the y-axis, which is the y-intercept, so it's 0, negative 3. So our equation is whatever the y-intercept is, so y equals b, and the y-intercept is negative 3. Come back here to my description. A vertical line has an undefined slope. Their equations can be written as x equals a, where a is the x-intercept. Okay, so notice how it's not in y equals. Well, it's not in y equals because it doesn't have a true slope. The slope is undefined. So as I'm looking at this this vertical line, I notice how it only intercepts the y-axis at positive 3. So it's at 3, 0. So again, the equation is y equals a, where a stands for the x-intercept, and the x-intercept is at 3. So the equation of this line is x equals 3. All right. I'm going to leave example 4 to you. The copy or the answers to that question will be on the notes. Bye, guys.